Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I was watching a show on Netflix last night. Oh, it was interesting. What they did was they took 10 people, and I guess they let them volunteer. And these were wilderness people. These were people that are young and fit and in good shape and everything, and that were used to wilderness stuff. They picked people who really believed that they could survive in the wilderness, and they were young and fit, and they really knew what they were doing. They knew how to start a fire without matches and stuff. People like that. People that were right on the go. Oh boy, $500,000 prize. They take them out and drop them off in the wilderness in their own little spot, and they just got to survive. And they're allowed to take 10 items with them, things, whatever they want, rope, things like that. Maybe a magnifying glass, or stuff, survival tools. Maybe a tent, whatever. They're allowed to take like 10 items with them in a backpack and go. And drop them off. And of course they got camera equipment with them so they can film what they're doing. They're allowed to have their camera equipment with them. They got, I guess they got to do their own filming. But it's a reality. It's real. This is real. They're really dropping them in the middle of nowhere. And they got to try to survive. And a lot of these people are hunters and things like that, hunter-gatherers. They've learned survival skills and are really good at it. So the show was very interesting, but I learned something big on that show about survival. Watching that show, I learned something big, and I only watched the first 2 hours of it, but I really learned something important. When a person tries to do too much too quick over a period of, say, several days, say they're trying to really get something done. And for these people, what they were really trying to get done was build shelters for themselves and trying to find food. Requires a lot of output of energy. Also, there's the fact that maybe you've witnessed this before. When you are uprooted from your normal bed where you sleep, comfortable in your house, you got your normal bed, you're used to sleeping in it and stuff, and all of a sudden you got to sleep in a sleeping bag on the ground someplace with the wind blowing and the trees rustling around you, and maybe at nighttime you don't know, you might hear things cracking and snapping in the woods, animals crawling through the woods or whatever. And the excitement too. It's very, very difficult to sleep. So you take a person and they're not getting much food, very little food, and they're putting out tremendous amounts of energy trying to do something, maybe hiking long distances or whatever, and they're not getting much sleep at night. After a few days goes by, they start to get absolute. I don't care how physically fit you are. Your body's going to start to get totally exhausted. So what happens next? You eat a little something to put something on your stomach. And because your body's totally exhausted, you haven't had any sleep for a couple nights, or maybe just an hour here and an hour there, and you're just drugged right out, your stomach does a flip-flop when you go to eat something. And you go into your body actually starts to go into shock, because your stomach all your organs just start to, and you get seriously ill. You can actually, that can make things worse suddenly, because what happens then is probably you'll vomit, and you might actually end up getting diarrhea and getting really sick, because now you're losing your electrolytes. They're coming out both ends, your electrolytes. Suddenly you get the chills, your whole body aches, and you're in a bad way. You can't even get up and walk 10 feet. You get dizzy. You get lightheaded. You stand up and you fall over. And part of what's caused all this, probably at least 50% of what's caused all this, is the excitement of the situation you're in, the stress of the situation you're in. So half of it is an actual physical battle where you're putting out more energy than you're consuming food. This is what caused it. And part of it is the mental factor. So you can train. You could go to the gym every single day and train to try to get yourself in the kind of physical condition where you could hike for 30 miles and stuff. And it's great, I mean, when there's no stress on you and anything else. You go out to the park or whatever, and you say, I can jog 10 miles and doesn't even make me tired, and go back home. Maybe you're in that kind of physical condition. But you haven't faced the real crisis yet. And believe me, when the real crisis hits, there's going to be a lot of people out there who fall into this trap, who are in great physical condition. And another thing, too, they're always going out for this. Less body fat, what they call ripped. They want to get so they can see their abs and everything else, and lower body fat percentage, so that they're all muscle. No fat, all muscle. Oh, look at me. I'm just rippling with muscles. I can show you that I'm the most fit person out there. That's what their goal is. But did you know that that's not the person who's going to make it through the crisis, because muscles require a lot of energy to support them. Food. So if you got two people out there, fat guy who hasn't got a lot of muscles, but a lot of fat, and a muscly guy, the muscly guy is going to have to eat a lot more to maintain his muscle mass. Muscles require energy. Fat doesn't really require a lot of energy to support it, for your body to support it, where muscles require food. Otherwise, the muscles start to disintegrate. When they disintegrate, they make uric acid. So it's maybe not an advantage getting ripped. It's a disadvantage in a crisis like this. So, a lot of people out there, they emulate a lot of these people who say, oh, I'm a survivalist, look at my muscles rippling and everything else. He might not be as good as somebody else who... And then there's a lot of factors to consider in this, you see. Now you're starting to think to yourself for a second, hey, this isn't all what it appears to be. A lot of it is the mental aspect, and not putting all your energy out. Say the crisis hits. We go into the SHTF. And these people out there, who maybe some of them have been preparing for a long time, they fall into this trap. But what would be the alternative to that? What's the opposite? The opposite is the less energy that you expend, the more you can keep yourself calm, the more likelihood that you're going to be able to have your body and trick your body into thinking that everything's fine. And you go along from day to day, week to week, month to month in this environment that you're in, and you don't fall over into a crisis situation where you're vomiting and you got diarrhea simultaneously, and your stomach's all full of cramps, and you get totally exhausted, and that whole situation that occurs doesn't happen to you. It never happens. If you can maintain that, trick your body, and say you wake up some morning and the nuke's going off. You look off in the distance, you see a mushroom cloud, and you hear a loud thump sound from the shockwave. Maybe it's 30 miles away from where your house. Maybe you live out in the country. And you say, oh my God, it's happened. You look off in the opposite direction, you see a couple more of these big mushroom clouds and say, oh my God, it's happened. It's going to be a real trick, you know, to try to trick your body into thinking that everything's normal and to not get into this exhaustion cycle, to get into this cycle of not being able to sleep at night, to get into this cycle. It's going to be a real trick to do that. But if you can do that, that's going to be one of your biggest allies to not panic. It's going to be one of your biggest allies to keep your body thinking everything's normal. To eat your meals on a regular basis like you normally do at home. To get your sleep at night after you see something like that happen. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to learn certain methods of disassociation. And these too are survival techniques. More powerful than the rippling muscles. Because this disassociation from yourself, from the situation that you're involved in, and that disassociation can occur in a number of ways. Maybe you're a bookworm. Maybe you want to go out and get yourself a novel to read that you get engrossed in. Wonderful. Expending energy only on the things you need, making every move count, because in a situation like that, you do not want to get injured. So you want to be careful about your movements. You want to precisely think out the things that you want to get done in order to survive. And you want to work at them meticulously. Not quickly, but thinking out your movements so that, like for instance, if you needed an axe handle, so you got a pocket knife, and you're going to whittle an axe handle because you got an axe head, but you haven't got an axe handle. You want to think out your movements and be very careful so that you don't cut your hand open. Things like that. Because now you're in a situation where maybe you don't have any medications for if you get injured, if you get an infection any longer. There's a lot to this survival thing, you know. And you know, I might start to talk more about this maybe on my Delta Report channel. I haven't done any shows on there for a while, and maybe I'll do a few shows where I get more into the depth of what would be required, because I think personally, especially after watching that show last night, that radiation is not going to be the biggest killer. If we get a nuclear war, nuclear bombs won't be the biggest killer. The big killer out there will be people creating these problems for themselves that they wouldn't necessarily have if they had the right mindset. Mindset is going to be the salvation. So the people who have the right mindset are the ones that are going to survive through this thing. And believe me, there's going to be a lot of survivors, no matter how bad this thing gets. Even if this thing were to be a nuclear winter, there would be a lot of survivors that are going to come through on the other side. You'd be amazed. But there are going to be people who you're going to weed out the hotheads. This is going to weed out the hotheads. You know who the hotheads are. You've seen them in life. People going around like with a Karen type attitude. And it's not just women that are that way. There's lots of male Karens out there too. You know. Anyway, I don't know how I got into talking about this, but we're getting close to something bad. And I don't know whether it's going to come from the financial system. I don't know whether it's going to come on the war front. I don't know whether it's going to come on the disease front with these viruses and stuff. But you can just smell it. Everybody out there knows right now. I shouldn't say everybody. All the people watching my channel. You're ahead of the crew, ahead of the crowd out there. But the crowd's going to panic at a certain point in time. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. When the real trouble starts, the crowd's going to panic. And when they panic, they're going to only make the situation so much worse. By the time everybody, like 1% probably of the population, or probably, I don't know, maybe it's between 1 and 5% of the population right now has wind or something up. But what about the other 95% of the population who got their head in the sand? When they wake up, that's when all of a sudden you're not going to be able to buy stuff in the grocery because they're going to try to prep. I mean, that's just a natural instinct. When it becomes real, like right now, they're like poo-poo. They poo-poo everything. You say, things are bad. The financial system looks bad. And they're like, it's just like it's always been. That's the way they are right now. But when they find out what's really going on and they get enlightened to it all, then they're going to try to prep too. What's going to happen to the rice in the grocery store then? What's going to happen with the beans then? The shelf going to be bare? Anyway, guys, strange world we live in, but let's get on to other news here. Toyota is planning to triple their EV, or electronic vehicle output, to 600,000 vehicles by 2025. Where's the electrical infrastructure going to come from to charge all of these vehicles? Because if they're not using gasoline, they're using electricity. Just a question I'm asking. Donald Trump says the crazy windmill farms are driving whales crazy. Well, I guess the whales are going to have to do stand-up comedy or something. There's a whale. I got a picture of a whale there doing in front of a theater of people or something. It's just something I put on there for a little bit of humor. People in the United States, especially in the United States and here in Canada too, are having trouble paying off their credit cards. Used to be when the credit cards first come out, everybody paid them off at the end of the month when the bill come due, and didn't carry that debt. Now they're all carrying that debt, and they're having trouble paying them off, and the debt's going higher and higher on them because interest rates are going up. And so what's going to happen? Spending is going to be very much curtailed very soon. 2 department stores could be in trouble. Probably going to be a lot more. So all the sales go online. All the retail stores end up having to close down in the end, Because if it's not robbery, it's not people running out through the doors with armloads of merchandise. If it's not that, it's they can't get good employees to run the place anyway. And what about shipping and everything else? It's all going to go online. Everything's going to start shifting online. Then when it gets all online, watch the internet go down. You ain't going to get nothing then. That's sick. Sick. Now, I get a kick out of this article. It says Zelensky. Now, if you don't know who he is, he's the leader of Ukraine. Ukraine. Right? Zelensky. And it says here in this article, he rightly asked Trump to present his peace plan. Well, I got a question. It's just a question. Why is he asking Trump? And why did they put in rightly? To be rightly, shouldn't he ask the President of the United States what his peace plan is? Because Trump is not the President of the United States. Trump is an ex-president. This would be the equivalent of asking Obama, what's your peace plan? Or asking Jimmy Carter, what's your peace plan? Or asking, I don't know, any ex-president. He's an ex-president. Why is it right? Why is it rightly to ask him what the peace plan is? He's not the president. Shouldn't you ask the president what the peace plan is? That's the question I'm asking. I'm just saying, shouldn't? Can anybody answer that for me? So that's why I got a kick out of that article. Zombies. We've all seen them in the movies. Oh my gosh, they've overdone the zombie movie thing, haven't they? There must be 1,000 different zombie movies out there. Why? Why is there so many zombie movies? Are they getting ready? Us ready for something? This thing here I seen on the internet, on YouTube, and it said scientists reveal how a zombie apocalypse could actually happen. Yeah, you get some disease that affects the brain. Actually, it wouldn't even have to be that. It could be just some sort of a virus out there that makes a lot of people ill and sick. And when somebody's extremely ill and sick, and they're staggering around, well, they could just label them zombie. Anybody who has, and that's probably what they'd do after all this indoctrination from about 5,000 zombie movies. If we get some sort of a virus out there where people are staggering down the street and maybe, I don't know, maybe they got ooze coming out their mouth, fluids draining out of their body or whatever because they're sick and dying, people would say, hey, there's a zombie. And maybe the police forces, I've seen this personally. I've seen these zombie training where they got them out there and they got some sort of an assault thing, and they're out there bang, 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 and they're so-called zombieing. They're doing the zombies. I've seen it. I've seen some film footage of it. I don't know. Maybe, gosh only knows what could happen in the future. I'm scared of these diseases and stuff. Maybe there is a zombie disease, but if they were to invent a zombie disease, they'd probably have to use some virus that would act maybe like airborne rabies. We got a disease that acts like that, rabies. It actually makes a person want to bite. You've all heard of rabid dogs running up and trying to bite you, foaming at the mouth and everything else. Well, what if they were to I don't know, make a laboratory and turn that into some sort of an airborne thing, where it's much more contagious, by an order of magnitude of 10 more contagious. Then they'd have something that maybe would simulate a zombie kind of thing. Now, I got a kick out of this article. It says world's first drug to regrow teeth enters clinical trials. Now, this is amazing. If that's really true. If they got a drug that'll regrow teeth, oh my gosh. But the only thing is to have a drug that would regrow teeth, wouldn't it make other things, like maybe if you're missing a finger or something, maybe you'll start to grow a new finger, or gosh, maybe it'll get carried away, maybe it'll get out of control, maybe you'll start to grow new body parts and stuff, or change or mutate. I'm glad they're doing clinical trials and not just putting it out there. And what about all the dentists out there? If they really do invent something that grows new teeth, people won't go to the dentist anymore. This is a tremendously large industry. Oh my gosh, the amount of money that's made in the dental industry from teeth. It's probably almost as big an industry as, I don't know, the military-industrial complex, practically. It's a huge industry. You can drive down any town in the United States and you'll see tooth clinic. And you're driving a quarter mile down the road, another tooth clinic. Look over there on the other side of the road, another tooth clinic. And they're all making tons of money. Anyway, let's take a look at the silver price today. $22.92. It's down 18 cents. The price of silver, for no reason. This really gets me. It really gets me because silver and gold are the only fundamental that keeps the whole financial system rooted to reality. At the bottom of Exeter's pyramid, at the bottom of the pyramid sits gold and silver. They're the only foundation. They're the chief cornerstone of the entire world financial system. But they keep the price of the stuff almost down to mining production cost. In fact, right now, I think it's just about sitting at mining production cost for the price of silver. This is a massive manipulation. Massive manipulation. And you know, if they let it go, if they were to stop this manipulation, it's all tied in integrally to the dollar. And the dollar's going to go anyway. But when the dollar goes, then you're going to see the price manipulation go as well. This thing's like a beach ball. It's being held underneath the water. And, you know, when it pops up, it's going to hit them right in the chin. Boing! Up into the air. Boom! When it goes. Gold. You know, gold today. Let's take a look. Gold price is $19.02. It's down $12.70. But what a buying opportunity they're creating. Cryptocurrency today. We're taking a look at a Bitcoin price of 26,236. Ethereum is at 1587. And XRP is at 50.1 cents. So it's just a little bit. At least it's not going straight down like it was. Now the stock markets fell 291 points, 33,715. Taking a look at this pattern right here. What are you seeing? You're seeing a double top there, but this second top that it just made is not as high as the last highest top, the peak, and this is a classic pattern. And if it continues to follow this classic pattern, it should drop down to probably around probably around 26,000. And then when it does, it'll do it very quickly. And I believe that's where the Fed will step in, is when they get a big sudden drop in the markets. They'll step in and they'll prop up the whole system again with a lot of new, fresh printed money. And I can't see it going any other way, because if they didn't, say it drops down rather sharply, rather quickly into crash territory. At that point, if they don't support it, it'll continue to drop. It'll drop down as low as the bottom of this chart. There's nothing to stop it. It's like I say, the whole thing's a fantasy world. The whole financial system now is a fantasy world, with the exception of precious metals. That's the fundamental. All the rest is derivatives. It's all a bunch of paper. Just playing with basically a ledger. That's all our currency is now. It's just a digital ledger. It's just got to the point of being absolutely, totally ridiculous. Now, I know it's ridiculous, but everybody relies upon it. They rely upon it. And that's why they will step in. Because they absolutely cannot let this system go down, because it supports them. Keeps them in their positions of power. Taking a look at the crude oil is at $90.37. You haven't seen nothing compared to the tricks that they can pull out of their hat when the world's financial system starts to really roll over hard. Talk about changing from a hawk to a dove. You haven't seen nothing, the tricks that they can pull too. They could even do the $1 trillion coin. Don't underestimate what they could do to save their ass. Bonds and rates today. We're taking a look at the yields rising again today, but maybe not as much, but still, it's still rising yields. So the 10 years at 4.54, and it's up over half a basis points. And the U.S. 30 years at 4.67, and it's up 1.9 basis points. We're still getting rising yields. They're losing control over the bond market. They're losing control over the dollar index. They're losing control, period. And the dollar index is at 106.15. So thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.